My name is Morgan Hale, and I never thought I'd find out my marriage was over in an airport terminal, with strangers watching and my name said out loud like a warning. I was there to pick my husband up. Instead, I watched him leave with another woman. If you've ever felt blindsided by betrayal, stay with me. Tell me where you're watching from, and hit subscribe before the story begins. I was supposed to be at arrivals. That's what the text said. Landing early. Phone's almost dead. Can you grab me curbside? No emoji, no punctuation, just the assumption that I would rearrange my evening without question, like I always did. I parked in short term and walked inside Seattle-Tacoma International Airport with my keys still in my hand, jacket half zipped, mind already on dinner plans and whether our daughter had finished her homework. I wasn't dressed for drama. I wasn't braced for impact. I was just doing what I always did. Showing up. The flight number wasn't on the arrivals board. I checked again. Then again, slower this time, as if the letters might rearrange themselves if I stared hard enough. Nothing. I pulled out my phone and typed his name. No response. Straight to voicemail. I stood there, confused but calm, telling myself delays happened, gates changed, technology failed. I told myself I was tired. I told myself not to make a scene in my own head. That's when I heard his laugh. It wasn't loud. It wasn't distinctive. But after 14 years, I knew it the way you know your own breathing. It came from behind me, near the escalators that led up to departures. Departures. I turned. He was standing in line at the gate. Not alone. He had a carry-on I didn't recognize. He was wearing the jacket I bought him last Christmas. The one he said was too nice for work trips. His hand was resting low on the back of a woman I'd never seen before. Not hovering. Not accidental. Familiar. Possessive. They were leaning in toward each other, heads close, laughing about something private. My body didn't react the way movies tell you it should. There was no gasp, no dizziness, no dramatic step backward. I just walked. Each step felt detached, like I was watching someone else move my legs. The gate sign came into focus. A destination city I knew he had no meetings in. Boarding group already announced. First class. I stopped a few feet away, close enough that I could see the woman's face clearly now. She was younger than me, but not by much. Well-dressed. Calm. Not nervous. That detail landed harder than anything else. This wasn't new. He looked up and saw me. The color drained from his face so fast it was almost impressive. His hand dropped from her back like it had been burned. "Morgan," he said, too loudly. The woman turned. Her eyes flicked from his face to mine, then back again. Calculation. Not confusion. I didn't answer him. I looked at the boarding passes in his hand. 2 of them. Printed. Planned. Behind me, people slowed. You can feel it when a moment shifts from private to public. The air tightens. Voices lower. Someone nearby stopped rolling their suitcase. "What are you doing here?" he asked. The question was absurd enough that I almost laughed. Before I could say anything, the gate agent looked up from the scanner. She glanced at him, then at me, then down at her screen. "Ms. Hale?" she said. I turned to her automatically. Reflex. "Yes." She smiled politely, the way people do when they think they're being helpful. "Are you traveling as well? I see your name connected to this reservation." The woman next to my husband stiffened. I didn't look at her. I didn't look at him either. I stared at the agent and felt something settle into place inside my chest. A final click. Like a lock turning. "No," I said. My voice didn't shake. "I'm not." The agent hesitated. "All right. Just wanted to confirm." I stepped back. My husband reached for me. I moved out of range without thinking. "Morgan, please," he said. "This isn't—" I held up my hand. "Don't," I said quietly. People were watching now. Not openly, but enough. The gate agent had gone still. The woman's expression was tight, her mouth pressed into a thin line. I looked at him then. Really looked. You told me you were coming home, I said. He swallowed. I was going to explain. When? I asked. After you landed? He didn't answer. The woman shifted her bag higher on her shoulder. She glanced at the boarding door like she was measuring distance. That did it. I turned to her. You should know, I said, still calm, still controlled, that the house he lives in belongs to me. The accounts he uses are joint. And the child he didn't mention has a school pickup in 40 minutes. Her eyes widened just a fraction. Enough. Boarding resumed. Please, my husband said again, lower this time. Desperate. Not here. I leaned in close enough that only he could hear me. You made it here, I said. I'm just finishing it. Then I stepped away. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I didn't demand explanations or apologies. I turned and walked toward the exit, my spine straight, my pace steady, my hands shaking only after the automatic doors slid open. Outside, the air was cold and smelled like fuel and rain. I sat in my car for a full minute before I started the engine. My phone buzzed, then buzzed again. I didn't look. As I pulled out of the garage, one thought replayed over and over, steady and sharp. He did this in public. So would I. And I would do it better. By the time I got home, the shock had burned off and left something colder behind. 14 years doesn't disappear just because you catch your husband at an airport gate. It follows you room to room. It sits in the corners. It pulls memories forward whether you invite them or not. We met when I was 24 and he was already talking like someone with a plan. He liked that I was steady. I liked that he was ambitious. We married fast enough that people raised eyebrows but slow enough that no one warned me. I believed in building things the long way. For a while we did. I had a career before the marriage. Not glamorous, but solid. When our daughter was born, we made the decision together that I'd step back for a few years. His job required travel, long hours, flexibility. Mine could wait. That was the story we told. That was the story I repeated when anyone asked if I missed work. I told myself I was choosing my family. The house we live in was never his dream. It was mine. It came from my grandmother's estate, sold at the right time, invested carefully. That money became the down payment, the renovations, the safety net we pretended was mutual. I handled the spreadsheets, the college savings, the property taxes. He joked that I was the grown-up in the marriage. I thought that was a compliment. The warning signs didn't arrive all at once. They crept in politely. He started traveling more, but with fewer details. Cities without stories. Dinners that couldn't be rescheduled. A new gym routine that came with a sudden interest in clothes he used to mock. His phone face down. Password changed. A second phone he said was for work. I noticed. I always notice. I asked once carefully, the way women learn to do when they don't want to sound accusatory. He laughed it off, called me stressed, reminded me how much pressure he was under, told me I was imagining things because I'd been out of the workforce too long. I let it go. That part hurts the most now. Not that he lied. That I helped him by doubting myself. Our daughter adores him. Or did. He coached her soccer team when his schedule allowed. He showed up late but smiling, full of big gestures that made him look like the fun parent. I was the one who knew her teacher's name, her allergies, the quiet way she shut down when something was wrong. I told myself we balanced each other. What I didn't see was how often he disappeared emotionally first, how his patience with me shortened while his charm for strangers sharpened, how every argument ended with me apologizing just to keep the peace. After the airport, I didn't tell anyone right away. I made dinner. I asked about homework. I folded laundry with hands that felt disconnected from my body. At 9:30, when my daughter was asleep, I finally called my sister. She didn't interrupt. She didn't rush me. She let me tell it in order, from the missing flight number to the gate agent saying my name out loud like it was normal. When I finished, there was a pause. "Morgan," she said, "I need to tell you something." My stomach dropped. She had seen him 2 weeks earlier. downtown, not working late like he claimed. At a restaurant I knew he liked, with a woman who wasn't me. They hadn't been hiding. They looked comfortable, established. I didn't say anything because I wasn't sure, she said. I wanted to be wrong. I closed my eyes. You're not, I said. No, she agreed. I'm not. That was the moment the story changed. Not at the airport, not at the gate. In my kitchen, with my sister's voice steady on the other end of the line, confirming what my instincts had been trying to tell me for months. This wasn't a mistake. It was a parallel life. When I hung up, I opened the file cabinet in the office and pulled out everything. Deeds, statements, insurance. I laid them across the desk like evidence, because that's what they were. This wasn't just about heartbreak. It was about custody, about money I had protected without realizing I was also protecting him, about the narrative he would try to spin if I let him speak first. He had boarded that plane assuming I would stay quiet, that I would be confused, that I would be grateful for whatever explanation he offered later. He was wrong. I stood there, surrounded by paperwork and 14 years of proof, and understood something clearly for the first time. I wasn't losing my life. I was about to reclaim it. And I was done waiting for permission. I didn't sleep. Not in the dramatic way people talk about, tossing and crying into pillows. I lay still and let my mind work. Every time an image tried to pull me back to the airport, I pushed it aside and replaced it with a question: what do I control? By morning, I had a list. I waited until my daughter was at school before I moved. Not because I was hiding, but because I was protecting her from the sound of a life-shifting shape. The first call was to a family law attorney my sister recommended. I didn't tell the story like a victim. I told it like a briefing. Dates, assets, the public nature of the betrayal, the confirmed second residence in another city. She saw him with her weeks ago, I said. I saw him boarding a plane. The attorney didn't gasp. She didn't console me. She asked about accounts. That told me I'd chosen the right person. By noon, we had a plan. Temporary separation. Emergency custody filing if necessary. Financial freezes where I was legally allowed. Documentation of everything. Silence where silence served me. The second call was to the bank. I didn't empty accounts. That would have looked emotional. I restructured access. Alerts. Dual authorization. A pause on discretionary transfers. It took 37 minutes and a calm voice. The third call was to the realtor. I may list, I said. Not today, soon. She understood what that meant. Houses tied to marriages always came with timelines. Then I packed. Not everything, just what mattered. Birth certificates, passports, school records, jewelry that had been in my family long before it was ever his. I packed them into a bag I kept in the trunk of my car. I moved his things into the guest room, clothes folded neatly, shoes lined up, not as a statement, as a boundary. At 3:14 p.m., my phone rang. His name lit up the screen. I didn't answer. A text followed. Please, we need to talk. I forwarded it to my attorney. By the time my daughter got home, the house looked the same. That was intentional. She told me about a science project. I asked the right questions. I smiled at the right times. After dinner, I sent him one message. You can stay elsewhere tonight. We'll speak through counsel. The reply came fast. You're overreacting. That word landed harder than anything else he'd said. At 9:02 p.m., he showed up anyway. I watched him from the top of the stairs as he stood in the entryway, holding his phone like it was a shield. He looked smaller than I remembered, uncertain. You can't lock me out, he said. I didn't, I said. You have a room. This is my house. I didn't raise my voice. No, I said. It's our house, and that matters legally. He stared at me, recalibrating. This was new. I wasn't crying. I wasn't asking questions. I wasn't negotiating. You're making a mistake, he said. I already corrected one, I replied. He tried to move past me. I stepped aside and pointed down the hall. Guest room. The silence stretched. "You really did this fast," he said. I met his eyes. "You did this slowly," I said. "I'm just catching up." For the first time since the airport, he looked afraid, and I realized something else. I wasn't reacting anymore. I was already ahead of him. The consequences didn't arrive with noise. They came quietly, like doors closing one by one. The first was financial. 2 days after he moved into the guest room, his credit card declined while he was buying coffee. He tried again. Same result. He called the bank. They told him there was a temporary restriction pending review. Perfectly legal, perfectly reversible, just not on his timeline. He stormed into the kitchen like a man used to problems bending when he leaned on them. "What did you do?" he asked. "I was loading the dishwasher." "I followed advice," I said. "You froze my accounts." "I adjusted access," I corrected. "There's a difference." His jaw tightened. "You can't just do that." "I can," I said. And I did. He stood there, stunned. He wasn't used to invisible limits. He was used to me smoothing things over, making calls, fixing small inconveniences before they reached him. Now they were reaching him. The second consequence was social. I didn't make announcements. I didn't post anything. I told 3 people the truth. My sister, my closest friend, his brother, because he deserved to hear it from someone who wasn't spinning it. Stories move faster when they don't sound rehearsed. Within a week, invitations dried up. Not mine, his. A work dinner canceled, a weekend trip postponed. People became busy, unavailable, careful. The woman from the airport disappeared too. He tried to hide that part, but I noticed the way he checked his phone and frowned, the way his confidence slipped around the edges. Whatever fantasy they had planned didn't survive contact with reality, especially not when money got tight. The third consequence was domestic. Our daughter noticed first. "Why does Dad sleep down the hall now?" she asked one night. "We're working through adult things," I said. "You're safe." She nodded. But she watched him differently after that. Children always do. He tried to compensate with gifts, with outings, with forced cheer that never quite landed. I let him try. I documented everything. The fourth consequence was professional. I didn't touch his job, not directly. But reputations bruise easily when people start asking quiet questions, when travel budgets get scrutinized, when expense reports don't line up. He came home late one evening, pale and angry. "They asked me about the trip," he said. "Which one?" I asked. He didn't answer. That night, he knocked on the guest room door after midnight. "Morgan," he said softly. "Please." I opened it just enough to look at him. "This is getting out of hand," he said. "We can fix this." "We?" I asked. He reached for my hand. I stepped back. "I didn't break us," I said. "I just stopped covering for you." His voice cracked then. Just a little. "I made a mistake." "No," I said. "You made a plan." He stood there for a long moment, realizing he was losing ground he didn't know could disappear. The next morning, he texted me from the driveway. "Can we talk today? Just us." I stared at the screen and felt something almost like pity. Almost. I typed one sentence. "Have your lawyer call mine." Then I put my phone down, poured my coffee, and watched him drive away, knowing this was only the beginning. He didn't stay quiet after that. Men like him never do. 2 days after the family dinner, the story started shifting. Carefully at first. Subtle edits. I heard about it through people who suddenly felt the need to check in on me. Questions framed as concern. Sympathy that felt conditional. He was telling people we were separated already. That we'd been drifting for years. That the airport scene had been taken out of context. That I was emotional, overwhelmed, unstable. He didn't deny the other woman. He just minimized her. I let him talk. Silence is useful when someone is busy building their own scaffolding. By the end of the week, he posted something vague online. No names, no details. Just enough to signal that he was the injured party navigating private challenges with grace. It worked. Briefly. A few people commented with encouragement. A few more sent me messages asking if I was okay, which really meant, is any of this true? That was when I stopped waiting. I didn't rage post. I didn't write paragraphs. I didn't argue point by point. I shared facts. A single post. Calm tone. No insults. I stated that I had discovered my husband maintaining a long-term relationship with another woman while married, that I witnessed him boarding a planned trip with her, that legal proceedings were underway, that I wouldn't be commenting further. Then I attached one thing, a screenshot of the flight itinerary. His name. Her name. Same booking, same seat class, same date. I turned off comments and logged out. The reaction didn't take long. Someone screen recorded it. Someone else shared it. The screenshot traveled faster than any explanation he could offer. People don't need embellishment when the evidence is clean. By that afternoon, his post was gone. By evening, my phone was buzzing nonstop. Friends apologizing for doubting. Acquaintances admitting they'd heard rumors and now understood. One coworker of his reached out to say they were surprised but not shocked. The other woman vanished completely. Her social media went private. Her professional page disappeared. The carefully curated confidence I'd seen at the airport dissolved the moment the story stopped being romantic and started being documented. He came home furious. "You had no right," he said, pacing the living room. "You're ruining my reputation." "I corrected it," I said. "You're trying to destroy me." I looked up from my laptop. "If that were true," I said, "I would have posted everything." He stopped. "What does that mean?" "It means," I continued evenly, "that you should be grateful I stopped where I did." His face changed then. Not anger. Fear. "You're supposed to handle this privately," he said. "You forfeited that expectation," I replied, "when you told your version first." He raked a hand through his hair. "People are calling me." "Good," I said. "They should." He leaned forward, voice dropping. "Take it down." "No. This is harassment. It's documentation." He stared at me like he was seeing me for the first time. "You planned this," he said. I closed my laptop. "No," I said. "I adapted." The next morning, his name was circulating in places he couldn't control. Group chats, workplace whispers, family threads that no longer defended him. The narrative had flipped completely. He wasn't misunderstood. He was exposed. By the end of the week, he stopped trying to explain. He started trying to survive. And I realized something as I watched him scramble. The truth doesn't need volume, it just needs light. He tried to get ahead of it. That was his mistake. Within days of the family dinner, his version of events started circulating. Not loudly, not recklessly. He framed it like a man burdened by circumstances, not consequences. We'd been growing apart. The marriage had been complicated. He'd felt lonely. I'd been focused on other things. He never said my name, but everyone knew who he meant. I heard about it from people who suddenly felt licensed to interpret my life. One neighbor asked if I was doing okay with the separation. A mutual friend mentioned she'd heard we'd been living like roommates for years. Someone else told me he'd said the airport incident was a misunderstanding. Bad timing. Poor communication. He was sanding down the truth until it fit in his pocket. I didn't interrupt him. I watched. There's a rhythm to lies. They start smooth, then grow messy as they spread. Each retelling requires a new adjustment, a new excuse, a new detail to explain why the last one didn't hold. I waited until the moment he crossed from defense into performance. That moment came when he posted online. Nothing explicit, just a carefully worded message about navigating private challenges and choosing grace. He thanked people for respecting boundaries he'd already violated. The comments filled with sympathy, heart emojis, encouragement. I stared at the screen and felt something steady settle into place. He wasn't ashamed. He was managing optics. So I removed the fog. I didn't argue with him publicly. I didn't accuse. I didn't ask anyone to take sides. I posted once. I wrote exactly 5 sentences. I stated that I discovered my husband had been maintaining a long-term relationship with another woman while married, that I personally witnessed him boarding a planned trip with her, that this was not a misunderstanding or a momentary lapse, that legal proceedings were underway, that I would not be engaging in public debate. Then I attached one image, a screenshot of the flight itinerary, names visible, date visible, seat class visible, no captions, no arrows, no commentary. I turned off notifications and went back to my day. By the time I picked my daughter up from school, the screenshot had already escaped my control. People saved it, shared it, sent it privately to each other with one-line messages that didn't need elaboration. Is this real? That's him. Wow. His post disappeared that same afternoon. By evening, his phone wouldn't stop ringing. He came home late, his face tight, his movements sharp. "You blindsided me," he said. "You started it," I replied. "You made me look like a monster." "You did that on your own," I said. "I just stopped pretending otherwise." He paced the room like he could wear a hole in the floor. "My job is asking questions," he said. "My parents won't return my calls. People are treating me like I committed a crime." I looked at him calmly. "You committed a choice," I said. "And choices come with witnesses." He stopped in front of me. "Take it down," he said. "Please." "No." His voice dropped. "You're enjoying this." I shook my head. "No," I said. "I'm finishing it." That was when fear finally replaced anger. He started bargaining, offering counseling, promising transparency, suggesting we present a united front for our daughter. Every proposal hinged on one thing: silence. He needed me quiet again. What he didn't understand was that silence had already done enough damage. The next few days were brutal for him. The woman from the airport erased herself. Her social profiles vanished. Her professional page went dark. Whatever story she'd been told about discretion and discretion protecting her collapsed the moment the truth became searchable. His colleagues stopped including him in informal meetings. Travel approvals stalled. A promotion he'd been angling for quietly evaporated. No explanations, just distance. That kind of fallout doesn't announce itself. It accumulates. At home, he stopped pretending to be confident. He watched me like I was holding a detonator he couldn't see. "What else do you have?" he asked one night. I met his gaze. "Enough," I said. That answer haunted him more than any threat could have, because he knew it was true. By the end of the week, the narrative had flipped completely. The whispers that once questioned my stability now questioned his integrity. The sympathy he'd collected curdled into discomfort. He wasn't misunderstood. He was exposed, and the most dangerous thing for him wasn't what I'd shared. It was the growing certainty that I hadn't shared everything. The legal part didn't feel dramatic. It felt surgical. Once filings began, the tone changed everywhere. Conversations shortened. Smiles disappeared. People stopped pretending this was something that could be smoothed over with apologies and time. The system doesn't care about charm. It cares about records. And I had them. The house was first. The deed told a clear story. My inheritance. My investment. His name added later, after the fact. The attorney explained it plainly. Best case for him was equity reimbursement. Worst case was walking away with nothing but his clothes. He tried to argue contribution, sweat equity, emotional labor. None of it moved the needle. Custody came next. I didn't ask for full custody out of spite. I asked because I'd always been the constant. School records proved it. Medical forms, emergency contacts, calendars that showed who showed up and who canceled. When the temporary order came back in my favor, he sat at the kitchen table staring at the paper like it was written in another language. "This isn't fair," he said. "This is documented," I replied. The money unraveled quickly after that. Accounts that had once felt endless suddenly had limits. His attorney pushed for access. Mine pushed back with numbers and dates. Expenses he'd charged without thinking now required explanation. Transfers were questioned. Travel reimbursements scrutinized. He downsized in real time. The car went first, then the gym membership, then the apartment he'd quietly been paying for in another city. That detail didn't play well in court. Neither did the messages. I hadn't leaked those. I didn't need to. Discovery did the work for me. Long threads, familiar language, plans layered over lies. His lawyer stopped making eye contact with him. His family fallout hit harder than anything legal. His father called me directly. He didn't defend his son. He apologized. "This isn't how we raised him," he said. "I know," I replied, and I meant it. His brother withdrew financial support quietly. No speeches, just distance. Invitations stopped. Holidays rearranged without him. The unspoken kind of exile that carries weight. The woman from the airport didn't resurface. I heard through someone else that she'd left her job, that she'd moved, that she told people she'd been misled. That might have been true once. It didn't matter anymore. At mediation, he looked exhausted. Thinner, smaller. Like a man who'd finally realized there was no version of this where he won. "You're being ruthless," he said under his breath. "I'm being thorough," I said back. By the time papers were finalized, he had lost the house, most of the savings, and the version of himself that believed consequences were negotiable. He moved into a furnished room on the edge of town. No garage, no guest space, no future plans beyond the next month. The day he came to collect the last of his things, he stood in the doorway and hesitated. "You really did this," he said. I looked around the house, the quiet, the stability. My daughter's drawings still taped to the fridge. "No," I said. "You did." And when he left, there was no relief, just clarity, the kind that lasts. We met because the paperwork required it. One last signature, one last exchange, one last opportunity for him to pretend this was mutual. He chose a neutral place, as if neutrality could soften what was coming. A small conference room at the attorney's office. Glass walls, a long table, water pitchers no one touched. I arrived early, not out of nerves, out of habit. When he walked in, I barely recognized him. He'd lost weight, but not in a healthy way. His suit hung wrong, like it belonged to a better version of him that no longer existed. His eyes flicked around the room before landing on me, searching for something familiar. I didn't give it to him. He sat across from me, hands folded tightly, knuckles pale. The mediator offered a polite greeting and explained the process. We nodded. We'd both heard it before. The door closed. Silence settled. He broke it first. "You look fine," he said. I didn't respond. He tried again. "I guess that's good." The mediator slid the documents forward. "Once these are signed, we'll be finished here." Finished. He flinched at the word. "Before we do this," he said quickly, turning to me, "can we talk? Just for a minute?" The mediator hesitated. Looked at me. I nodded once. She stepped outside. The room felt smaller immediately. He leaned forward, voice low, urgent. "I know I handled things badly," he said. "I know I hurt you. But it didn't have to end like this. It ended the moment you chose someone else," I said. He shook his head. "You don't understand. I was lost. I wasn't thinking clearly. It wasn't about replacing you." "That's worse," I replied. "You treated my life like a distraction." He swallowed. "I miss us," he said. "I miss our family." "You miss stability," I said. "You miss being held up. That's not fair." "I'm not here to be fair," I said. "I'm here to be done." His eyes filled then. Real tears. Not performative. Not strategic. Human. "I'll do anything," he said. "Therapy, transparency. I'll move back home. I'll earn your trust back." I studied him. This man had once known all my tells, my soft spots, the places I bent when pressed. He was searching for them now, trying to find the version of me that would negotiate. She wasn't there anymore. "You already did everything," I said quietly. "You just did it without asking." He reached across the table, stopping short of touching me. "Please," he said. Don't erase 14 years. I didn't raise my voice. I'm not erasing them, I said. I'm refusing to repeat them. He slumped back, breath shaky. You're punishing me. No, I said. I'm protecting myself. There it was. The shift. The moment he realized this wasn't about revenge anymore. That the ground he'd been trying to regain no longer existed. I thought you'd be angry longer, he said. I thought you'd need me. I did, I replied. That's why this hurts. But needing someone isn't the same as trusting them. He nodded slowly, like he was absorbing a lesson he couldn't unlearn. What do I tell our daughter? He asked. The truth, I said. That you love her. That adults make choices. That I won't lie to cover them. He winced. You've changed, he said. Yes, I agreed. I had to. The mediator knocked gently and stepped back inside. Are we ready? I picked up the pen. He watched my hand like it was the final act of something he'd failed to stop. Before I signed, I looked at him one last time. I want you to hear this, I said. Not as an attack. As a boundary. He nodded, bracing himself. You don't get access to my life anymore, I continued. Not my time. Not my emotions. Not my forgiveness. You don't get updates. You don't get explanations. You don't get nostalgia. His lips parted, but I held up a finger. And if you ever wonder why, I said, remember the airport. Remember that you boarded a future that didn't include me, and you did it smiling. I signed. He stared at the paper, shoulders sagging. When it was his turn, his hand shook. After the last signature, the mediator gathered the documents and stood. That concludes the meeting, she said. I stood too. He rose slowly, desperation flickering again. Is there really nothing left to say? He asked. I paused at the door. There is, I said. He looked hopeful for half a second. You don't lose people when they stop loving you, I said. You lose them when you stop respecting them. Then I walked out. And I didn't look back. It took almost a year before I stopped waiting for something to go wrong. Not consciously. I wasn't sitting around expecting disaster. But my body still remembered what it felt like to live on alert, to listen for footsteps, to read tone shifts, to brace for explanations that never quite lined up. That kind of vigilance doesn't disappear overnight. Then one afternoon, I realized I'd left my phone upstairs for hours and hadn't checked it once. That was when I knew something had changed. Life didn't rebuild itself in dramatic pieces. It didn't arrive with grand gestures or symbolic moments. It came back together quietly, in routines that felt lighter each week. Mornings were calmer, no tension hanging in the air. No emotional forecasting before coffee. My daughter moved through the house without watching me for cues. She hummed while she got dressed. She talked about school without hesitation. The weight she'd been carrying without words finally lifted. That alone was worth everything. The house felt different too. Not emptier, just honest. I turned the guest room into a workspace, cleared out the furniture that had never been mine. Let light into rooms that used to feel crowded with unspoken things. I didn't redecorate to erase him. I rearranged to reflect me. For the first time in years, the space didn't feel like something I was maintaining for someone else. I went back to work slowly. Not because I needed saving, but because I wanted momentum. The confidence I thought I'd lost had only been dormant. It returned the moment I stopped second-guessing myself. People noticed. Not in a congratulatory way. In a quiet, respectful way. Like they were recalibrating who they thought I was. Money stopped being emotional. That surprised me the most. Once the chaos was gone, finances became clean, predictable. I planned without fear, invested without guilt. I trusted my own decisions fully for the first time since my 20s. Trust, I learned, is the real inheritance. I heard about him occasionally. Never from him. Always through someone else. A job that didn't last. A move that didn't fix anything. Attempts to rebuild a version of himself that depended on people forgetting. They didn't. I didn't feel satisfaction when I heard those updates. I felt distance, like hearing about someone you once knew in school, a life no longer connected to yours. That absence of emotion told me more than anger ever could. The real proof came unexpectedly. I was back at the airport, months later, not picking anyone up, not watching boards with my heart in my throat. I was traveling alone, window seat, bag under the seat in front of me. As I walked past the gates, I caught my reflection in the glass. Calm, grounded, unrushed. I thought about that first night, about standing frozen while my marriage boarded a flight without me, about the gate agent saying my name out loud like it was just another line item. That moment used to feel like the worst day of my life. Now it felt like a pivot point. Betrayal didn't break me. It clarified me. It stripped away the version of myself that overextended, over-explained, over-accommodated. It forced me to choose boundaries instead of hope, truth instead of comfort. I didn't become bitter. I became precise. Precise about what love actually looks like, about what partnership requires, about how much of myself I will never again hand over to someone who treats loyalty like an inconvenience. I don't miss who I was before. She was strong, but she was tired. She carried things that were never hers to carry. She called it commitment. This version of me is lighter, not because life is easier, but because it's honest. If I could speak to that woman standing at the gate, heart racing, future collapsing in real time, I wouldn't tell her to stay calm. I wouldn't tell her to be patient or graceful. I'd tell her this: you're about to lose a life that was quietly draining you. You're about to gain yourself back, and it will cost you less than staying ever did. Some endings aren't tragedies, they're exits, and I walked out exactly when I needed to. Thank you for staying with me through this story. If it resonated with you in any way, click the hype button to show your support. I'd also love to hear your thoughts or your own experiences in the comments. You're not alone, and your voice matters here. If you haven't already, hit the like button and subscribe so you don't miss future stories like this. Your support helps more than you know, and I truly appreciate you for being here.